Okay, boys and girls, you've submitted your images to me for your project. So you are receiving from me a piece of copier paper that has your image that you submitted printed out with some lines over top of it. And depending on the orientation of those lines are either going to be vertical or horizontal. So here's an example of one that is and you can see that my lines are vertical. And here's an example of one that is a portrait view image, and the lines are horizontal. You'll also receive from me a piece of drawing paper in which part of your image is printed on and the other parts are left blank. For our drawing, we are going to fill in the blanks using the information we have on our copier paper version. And then we are going to eventually add value after we draw in the missing pieces. Now, in the course of preparing for this project, we have done value scales and we have talked about different ranges of pencils. So when we draw this, we're going to be using a pencil. And that is because a 6H pencil is a pencil that will give us very light lines. And our goal is when we create this drawing that our value changes and our shading create the edges of our object, not a heavy dark outline from a pencil. But we have to do something first to our papers before we can get started on the drawing part. To make this easier, when I go to draw these missing pieces, I'm going to cut my paper along my line. So if it is a image in which my lines are vertical, I'm cutting along the vertical lines. And if it is an image in which my lines are horizontal, then I'm going to cut along the horizontal lines. Taking a pair of scissors, I want to do this very carefully. And I'm going to stop at the top. When I get near here, I'm going to stop. I don't want to cut the strip off. I want to leave it attached to the white border. So when I am done, I will have all of my lines cut, and this will then create my image into strips, but they are still attached by my white border at the top. My next step is I want to attach this to my drawing, but I don't want to make it permanent. So I am just going to use a piece of tape to carefully. So what I've done is take my copier paper, laid it over top of my drawing, and lined up my edges. I'm going to lay a piece of tape on my white border. And carefully lift it up and fold that tape over onto the back. And I'm going to put 2 more near the corners. And I made sure to stay on my white border. That way these strips, when I need to lift them, can easily be lifted up. So now that I have this prepared, I'm ready to start drawing. So I'm going to be drawing into the white spaces. So I'm going to lift up the strips that already have, or I should say are already printed on to my drawing paper. And I'm just going to bend these back. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where I need to start. So I'm going to extend, in this case, his whisker over to the right. And since my whisker is lighter than my background, I'm going to draw it a little bit thicker, because when I shade in my background I can always narrow down that. But I'm going to try to get it about in the same placement that it is on here. So I see my whisker kind of lifts up a little bit. And I'm going to not press hard, and I'm going to try to draw this as light as possible. So I have another whisker down here. And another one here. And in this strip, I'm going to, as best as I can, outline the parts that are missing in my drawing. So notice I am picking up and flipping my drawing down. I'm going to try to mimic as best as I can any value changes and shapes I am seeing in my drawing. So I lay it down, pick it up, lay it down, pick it up, to try to draw in my missing information. So I'm not done yet, but this is how far I've gone. So you can see it's just a light sketch. I'm not pressing too hard with my 6H pencil, and I'm just going to try to complete the image as best as I can. For my next stage of the project. So this is step 1 in completing our value drawing.